All right, we're live. We're pretty much on time. I fully expect something goofy is going to happen because something always does when I stream for whatever reason. Uh, Last Saturday was such a frustrating experience for me as a person that tries to do this twice a week because I had a stream where I had a few people and we were having a good conversation, and then the internet went out or it started acting up, and that's always irritating because, as I've said before, when the internet acts up, usually that means that anyone who watches something on the replay is going to be very confused, or there's going to be like pieces of it that like fluctuate, move around. It like you'll go from hearing me say one thing to another thing, and it'll just be really confusing. And I've always hated when that happens because you have these connections that are just so unstable. Like they'll just abruptly and randomly, act up, and it's I've also said before that that message that comes up when it says connections unstable, it's not actually telling you the truth in the sense that it was already unstable and it's like just now notifying you. So that's why a lot of times I'll instinctively just not say anything while it does that to make it lower the chances of the thing not catching what I say, but it still won't catch it anyway because it already was acting up and it just now told me. So it's like pretending that, I'm actually making a difference here. But I have a new edited video. Um I'm going to try to finish that tonight or tomorrow. It's definitely going to be before Friday because Friday's going to be really crazy. Um I mean, just I'm going somewhere. It's going to take a long time, and I don't know when I'm going to be able to just kind of like sit back and relax. So you can look for that, and you can also expect, I guess, you know, maybe I don't know. We'll see. This stuff has been fluctuating so much and so rapidly. You never know at this point. But one of the other things we were talking about during that stream that I really liked was audience retention, and it was about how a lot of times with content creators, they'll put out a video, and let's say they're a big channel with like what's a good number? Let's just say 100,000 subscribers, right? And they put out this video and it gets 30,000, 40,000, 50,000 views. We were talking about how what's so interesting about a lot of these channels is that they'll pump out some video and it'll get a number of views that to me will seem impressive, to other people who don't have channels will seem impressive. It'll really look like they have this big audience. But what ends up happening is after the first 24 hours, 48 hours, you can expect that video to basically not be watched by anybody ever again at all, period. So the video that got 30,000 or 50,000 views in its first 1 or 2 days, you come back to it in a week and it might have maybe 50 or 80 views on it if you're lucky. And that was why I said the site is so unstable, because not only does every time you upload, you have to worry about, oh man, is this thing going to be able to get enough views for me to, sustain my living standard? We've talked before about how I've seen channels where they can have one video get 400,000 views, and the next one can barely get like 70 or 80,000, which again is not bad as far as the views itself are not bad. But when you consider the drop off from one video to the next, it's like night and day. Um, and I was talking about how it seems like with a lot of the channels I watch, there's a disconnect between a viral video with, let's say, 1 million views or even higher than that, because those are going to be videos people just go back to no matter what, just because the sheer number of views they have. Or you have these like news videos where, and it's not even just people who do news, but I've noticed a lot of times with them, the only time I'll see someone go back to a video they did about a news story is if someone, either the person in the video or the person they're covering, the thing they're talking about, makes some kind of prediction and it turns out to be correct or false. that's why during the stream I mentioned how there was a I guess I'll just say it. So TYT made a video about how their belief that the video was called Trump will resign in disgrace soon or something to that effect, prediction and at the top of it. This came out in like August of 2017. Now, in reality, he never resigned, which, I wasn't surprised by because it's not exact. I mean, it's just whatever. So for this video has over 1 million views last time I checked, probably even more than that by this point. And it doesn't have over 1 million because the commentator, Cenk, that he makes like these really great, amazing points that are so profound and people have never heard anything like it before. No, it has that many views because if you go in the comment section, it's a bunch of people who are telling him, "You thought he was going to resign. You thought he was going to resign." Like making fun of him for being so incorrect, which they have the right to do, but it's like they're by trying to tell him how dumb he was for believing this, they're also like helping his channel and making it larger and giving him one of his highest viewed videos. And that's why I said a lot of times, and it's a big part of another belief system I have, which is that the actual quality of someone's content is not determined by the views on it, because that video is just like, wow, I was actually wrong. It's got 2.6 million. I was off by a whole 7 digits. But I was just saying that, a video like that gets the attention that it does, not because of how well done it is, not because of anything about it that's in any way reflective of some, higher level of work or quality in the rest of their stuff. It's just he made a prediction. It turned out to be very incorrect. Um, and we basically just have a bunch of people who just they keep coming back to make fun of him for being wrong about this. Uh they disliked him so much that they helped his video get 2 million views. But that was one of the things I talked about, how a lot of times with these channels I've noticed where they drop the video, it gets again a bunch of views, relatively speaking anyway, like 5 digits or sometimes 6 digits. And I kid you not, after that initial boom of views, the percentage of people who still come and watch that stuff drops like a torpedo. It just falls all the way down to the ground, and nobody ever checks it out or sees it anymore. Or if they do, it's like, a few people a year. And I guess what is really crazy to me is that you could look at someone's channel and just see a bunch of videos with 100,000, 200,000, and you would really think, oh man, this person's really successful. They're huge. But in reality, they're having to keep pumping stuff out the way that's a smaller person would, because when they drop something and it gets released and it gets its like max number of however many, um, they have to hope that that holds, or that, that's like enough to sustain them for the day or for the week, and then go back and try again the next week. It's really, that's why I said this site, it's so unstable, that even the people who are at the top are like freaking out whenever YouTube does something with its algorithm. Like I mentioned before that David Pakman did a video where he was freaking out about having some video that only had 1,000 views, which for me would be really good. For him is really bad because he has over 1 million subscribers. So that's literally 1,000th of his subs watching. But I'm not going to look at that and make fun of someone, because I see I see what his point was, which is that he consistently gets tens of thousands of views every video, and then all of a sudden it's not even half of that. And it's like, I don't believe that people just randomly decided to stop watching them. I think, it's a combination of, the algorithm, and just how unstable the site is. That algorithm is a mess. Akatsuki Merchant, you could have a video that gets like 40,000 views, and then you put up another one that gets like 2,000. You'll be like, what happened to the other 30,000? Because like there's a expectation when you grow, you like consistently can get people to watch your stuff. But I'm not kidding. It's like the lines between big content creators and small content creators gets blurrier every year because I've seen larger channels pump out stuff that gets less and less views, and the smaller ones pump out stuff and they get more and more. Um, I mean, just to give you an example, one of the most iconic, I'm gonna keep using them as examples because I've been around them for so long. One of the most iconic TYT videos was their 2016 election coverage because they freaked out. They were cursing. It was funny. Um, and I say it was funny as someone who's like on the same ideological plane as them. Like it was really comedic watching them just go crazy over giving someone like that they didn't like winning the election. So a person took like their coverage and kind of like spliced it at like a highlight reel, and this person doesn't even have 100,000 subs. His video has over 8 million views, and just to put that in perspective, his video has more views than almost every single video that TYT has done outside of like maybe 10 or 15 of them. It's like, you don't think that's crazy that here's a guy whose channel isn't even like, well, heck, it's not even like, I don't even think a tenth of the size of theirs. And he puts up a video that gets more views than almost every video that they've done. Certainly more than anything they've done since like last year or the year before that. And it didn't get more views because it's like well, what it is that that video has high audience retention, so people keep coming back to laugh about what like their meltdown, as it's called. I'm saying two of my favorite events with that channel were again was the meltdown and the RNC thing with Jones and Stone. Like I still can't believe the last one happened. They were at the convention covering it, and the first thing Jones says was, "Let me sit in your lap" or something to that effect. It was crazy. We're against Saudi Arabia. We talk about that all the time. It was nuts. Like that really felt like something out of a skit as opposed to like an actual thing that occurred. Like it was crazy. I didn't even say anything to Aaron. He just appeared. He just showed up. But yeah, the algorithm is like part of the problem, but it's one of those things where all of it together is just bad. Like what does it say about a channel with 1 million subscribers where the best it can do is get maybe like 50, 60, 70,000 views, and then after it puts out the video, it'll be lucky if it can even get like 50 people to watch that stuff per week. So I said audience retention's it plays a very big role because I've seen, I swear, some content creators, they put up a video from like a year ago, 2 years ago, 3 years ago, 4 years ago. People are still watching it. That's something that even though it's old, it still is there and being sought after and viewed and checked out, and helping them with regard to their revenue because people are still actively interested in it. But I always try to figure out where that disconnect comes from, because if someone is regularly making stuff and all of it has this like lifespan on it where after that first week, not even week, first few days, people just don't check it out anymore, then it just goes back to what I was saying about how unstable the site is, where you're lucky if you can get people to check something out past the first 48 hours, you know? I mean, I already explained to Akatsuki Merchant before that it'll be the most random video that people will watch. Because I described, I made a certain video in February of what was that, 2017, and then like 5, 6, 7 months later, like a September or like October, it's just people just started watching it out of nowhere. It was so weird. I didn't promote it. I didn't share it. I didn't say, "Hey, here's this thing." I did nothing, and it just it was crazy. That's why I said this site is just so weird to me. Like, you, how could, like, I've never, I'll never understand the phenomenon of releasing a video in February and just being like, okay, whatever, this is just something else that people ignored, and then all of a sudden, months and months later, it just starts, picking up all this traction. It's so, like, that's really weird to me. It's like, hey, you thought this video wasn't going to get any views? Guess again. I see the Akatsuki Merchant dipped. He wrote one comment and vanished. He reminds me of a lot of those other commentators where they write one thing, they're drive-by type, and they're so I'll be missing him. I see he made his. Oh, I forgot he's playing that Xenoverse 2 DLC. That's why he hasn't written anything else. He's preoccupied with his favorite game. Only game I've ever seen where you have to get 40 characters out of the game, but whatever. So yeah, we won't be hearing from him anytime soon. He's gonna be really wrapped up with that DLC. He's exploring all the stages, playing as everybody. They like to type weird and confrontational and then run away from it as though they got you so good. Well, that's what drives me crazy because I used to really approach this from the perspective of, oh, people who disagree, they just want to have a conversation. Oh, that's why they're here. They want to just have a discussion. But there's certain times where you can like pick up on it where they don't really concede the validity of any point you make, like at all, to where you're just like, okay, well, if we can't even agree on a basic idea of this, that, or the other, then what's the point? And especially when they run off, because then they just came there to write something nasty and to vanish. That's why I got to a point where I don't even like directly respond to the comment section because it's just why bother? People get mad at you over all kind of stuff, so you just have to let them spew their nonsense. It's just one of those things where there's not really a purpose in me engaging with it if they're just going to get mad at me over anything, and then when you try to talk to them, they vanish. That's why we use that terminology, drive-by typers. That is interesting that like most like news channels I've noticed, they'll pump out content and it'll be like hot for that first day or two, and then no one like checks it out. Um, and then in some extreme cases, they'll have a video where like either they make a prediction or somebody else makes a prediction, or there's like something about it, right? And then all of a sudden, people will keep checking it out and keep watching it. And I'm telling you, there really is a threshold between having a video that's completely forgotten. It's like if in that original week it was able to reach 100,000, 200,000, a million in some more extreme cases, people will still come back and watch that thing very often. Like even if it's, no better produced than anything else you've made. And I find that extremely interesting because it really does show you that there's like a disconnect between the regular stuff that someone releases and then this one thing that everybody watched when it first came out and keeps coming back to sample and, you know, view. Mm. How are you doing, Jim? I know you were considering unsubscribing because you didn't get your China documentary. Don't worry, it's coming. It probably won't be this week, but it'll be soon. No, Saturday I was trying to stream and then the internet was acting up. I know you're gonna riot and protest. You're gonna lead the exodus of everyone just unsubbing after they didn't get the video. He told me it would come out in March, but didn't come out until the beginning of April. So it was very nice knowing you, and I feel very downtrodden knowing that you're gonna resign soon. No, apparently I'm going out of town on Friday, so probably because I'm not just gonna sell my computer all day if I'm somewhere else, but I'll see about. I'm still gonna make stuff anyway. God, that 8 hour flight. I'm not like yet. No, we don't know. People, I tell you, they on here they get mad at you over anything. I'm not joking. I did one video where I was talking about how someone upset me because, and it was like a bunch, like a general topic kind of thing where you discuss multiple things. And I mentioned that this person threw away some shampoo that I was using, and it was like they were like, "Oh, I didn't know it was still being used," even though the thing was like transparent. You can see how much is in there. And this guy was like, "You made a stream talking about something as frivolous as shampoo. I'm unsubbing." And I swear, I that guy in the whole time he was apparently a subscriber left like maybe 2 comments before that. I was like, all right, goodbye, get lost. I don't care. I mean, like I said, the main people that act weird and like make those declarations that they're done with you, they don't even support you. Like it's like who cares? There was this one guy. He subscribed to me for like the romance stuff, and then I'll never forget, he came on one of my streams and tried to like, you know how they do. They try to like change your mind or convince you or whatever that you're like wrong for believing this or you shouldn't believe this or oh, the magic woman or whatever. And I said, hey, look, I'm not interested in that. Can you just go? And he then a few or days later, maybe the same day, he's like, I'm unsubscribing because you are too negative with regard to this topic. And I was like, that's really crazy for him to say that because, you know, again, being consistent means that I was negative before he subbed. So now he's unsubbing because I'm acting the same way I was before he subscribed in the first place. So he's mad that I acted the way I was before he like it was weird. It was weird. But it's like it's even crazier when again the people who announce that they're departing, like they don't even support you. So every time one of them does, I'm like, who are you again? Oh, the person that came on one stream. I wrote like 2 comments. Oh man, how will I go on? Well, you know what it is. It's like I've unsubscribed from channels before, but I don't announce it to the people I'm unsubbing from, because again, I'm just one person, and it's like they don't. Why do they? Why does the person who makes the channel need to know that I have unsubbed from you and will never watch your content again? It's just weird. But the other part of it is they act like they're really doing something. Like again, it's not some person like if this was someone who was on every stream I did and they were like leaving comments on videos. I'd be like, man, that was a really important guy. He was always on my stuff. Oh, I really lost some support. Instead, it's always these people that barely show up or they come and like write weird stuff, and I just don't have time for it. Aaron says, yeah, it's passive aggressive to do that. And look, I've unsubbed from people, but I've never gone today on March 20th. I am announcing my resignation as a subscriber from your channel. Like you need to write me a Dear John letter. Just go. They're trying to hurt feelings. I mean, they're not hurting. They hurt me more when they were a sub than when they weren't here. Because when they're a sub, you think, oh man, like when you get more subs, oh, people are going to start watching and they're going to leave comments. Instead, they say nothing. They leave. No, they don't boost you in any capacity. So again, like who are they hurting? They're hurting you more when they're here than when they're not here. Flouncing out, tail feathers on fire. I'm just saying, most of the people that do that I'm unsubbing thing aren't even they're not they make themselves not matter because they don't show up, they don't comment, nothing, just no support. I remember the guy that came on my stream writing all that nasty stuff about you're a mediocre man. And then I asked him where because he's like, as a long time sub, like, no, yeah, you're such a long time sub. We've never seen you before. Just because I didn't leave comments doesn't mean I didn't watch it. Yeah, but it would show that you actually have been watching. Like, look, on this stream, I left this comment, but like, you know what I'm talking about? Like, they don't matter. They make themselves irrelevant. I rarely unsubscribe unless the content goes south and I don't announce it. I just press the button. Me neither. There's a bunch of people I don't watch anymore that I haven't like in reality, most subscribers when they subscribe to somebody, like that's it. They're not going to even like take the like go to the effort of unsub from this person and then let me tell this other person to unsub because usually, you know, being subscribed to more people does not hurt you in any capacity. You see them in your subscriptions. You don't have to click on their videos. So it would be more weird to unsub, let alone to unsub and announce it, than just stay sub to somebody and not watch like most subs do. I will no longer watch this person, and I'm leaving and departing, and they're going to be ruined by my lack of watching their stuff. I'm telling you, some of these people, they make it sound like it would be the end of the world if you didn't check out this if they if they didn't check out your stuff anymore, and you're like, when have you ever? I'll knock this thing out. That's like going to a charity organization and boldly declaring you will no longer support them, even though you haven't donated a single thing to them. Or if you did donate, it was like $1, $2, you know, like nothing that makes or breaks them. The sky is falling. Dude, they make themselves seem like they're so important. Like, how will I go on now that the person that left 3 comments on my channel has departed? Yeah, that charity analogy was funny because I've seen people like, uh, I'm not giving the RNC a single penny, and it's like, well, were you giving them anything to begin with, or the I'm considering unsubbing? Do they really make it seem like they're like you're a stock and they're investors and they're like trying to have some kind of impromptu meeting where they like tell you, hey, you know, we're considering unsubbing, you know, as a result of your decision to liquidate the assets. Like, come on, man, just You know, it's like it's so funny. Well, I've been accused of like being overly serious or dramatic, but it's like they're the ones that will sit here and really treat subscribing to somebody's channel like it's this business. You know, it's so weird. They get on my nerves. They always want to declare that they're done with somebody. Like I've had restaurants I used to eat at, um, and if I stop eating there, I just stop going. I don't go, hey guys, before I go, I want to write you this Dear John letter. I want to announce to you why I'm not going to eat anymore because they don't care. They act like they're doing you a favor by watching your content. Well, that's the thing that like most of them don't. You wouldn't even know that they watch. People just love making the declarative statements. It looks like Megumi's not going to show up to the stream. I was really hoping he would because I think it was the Saturday from. It was either last Monday. Yeah, I think it was last Monday where that weird guy came on there and was writing all types of nonsense about if you can't afford your apartment, just become a dentist. You know that nonsense. Um, but one of the things Megumi asked when I was talking about unions and how like people should work together to protest these larger corporations because when you do that, you show them that you're not just going to put up with any old crap. Um, he asked me like why do I think people don't do that, and I completely forgot to mention because I said that some people are just not aware, they don't have a person that has organized them before. I really forgot to mention the union busting, like how you have through both the federal government and state government different attempts to like crack down on employees like being able to get with unions and like giving them incentives not to affiliate with them. It's there's like a whole history of that, like over the last 40 years. I totally forgot to mention union busting. That was a complete oversight on my part. Mr. No Nuance. Dude, my favorite part of that stream was that he's like sitting here and giving all this advice on how to like sustain an income to where you can live by yourself, and then he admits that he lives with his parents. And I was like, what how are you an authority on living alone and then you're still with your mom and dad? That's just like how you would have all those guys that were like, hey, if you want to get a girlfriend, you have to do it's like, and then not a single one of them ever showed they're with a woman. So that's why I said like when people come on here and they hide their face, they can write any old crap and they expect you to believe it, even if they themselves have not done the stuff that they claim would make you successful. That's really crazy. I'm gonna talk about move to Texas. Like, yeah, brilliant idea. Let me go to a state where I have no support whatsoever. So if I get fired from a job, I have no one I can turn to. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Let me go to a state where, as they're trying to push the minimum wage out here to 18, the minimum wage over there is still 7 an hour, 7.25 an hour. Let me go somewhere where I make less than half what I already do. That's very brilliant. I'm telling you, man, people don't even think. They just write this weird, ridiculous, nonsense garbage. Like it's really sad. Jim, if you want to live by yourself, just move to another state and take an over 50% pay cut, and you'll be able to make it. God, his solutions were awful. I'm like, you want me to move to another state, which already cost a bunch of money, uh, then go and take courses to become a dentist, which will take 3 years, in addition to working some full time job because I don't have anyone that takes care of me, especially not in Texas. So it's like, it's just stupid, man. Just really dumb. That's why I said, like, usually I'm all right with dissenting opinions, but what he started to do was pissing me off because he's like, well, if rent out there is so expensive, like, what do you mean so expensive? I have the proof. I'm showing, or excuse me, I could easily show where you have little 1 bedroom apartments that cost $2,000 over here. But he acts like I'm making that up. Like I created these prices to trick people. It's so the whole thing was just really obnoxious. Yeah, he was very smart. COL is just nuts. Why so expensive? Um, I mean, well, it's all part of that same pattern. They encourage people to be homeless effectively. I mean, when you make stuff at a price that no normal person, um, I mean, I've said before that like I know people they have to work 7 days a week to be able to live. Like it's really crazy. Yeah, he was acting all incredulous as though rent hasn't skyrocketed in the past few years. Mr. No Nuance was insufferable. Even cars are up. Used cars are now naked up 35%. Well, I already said before that leasing cars to me has always been the most like I've just seen no personal appeal for it because the idea that I buy a car and I have to keep making payments on it, you just can't get me to be on board with that, especially with how unstable these jobs are. Because some people, when they don't have anywhere to live, they sleep in their car. So what? You after you can't afford your rent for your house, you're going to get your car taken too. So yeah, I will only buy cars. I'll never lease one because I don't need to keep making payments on something that never ends. That's like a perma rent. Dude, and it's like I look at the rent in Texas where it was 1,000 on average, and it's like so 725 an hour times four is what, $29, and times another four that would be 58. So with making 58 a day, that's gonna be like 200, like almost 300 a week, right? So with almost 300 a week, you're still barely scraping to get to that 1,000 that these average apartments over there cost. So basically, you've encountered the same problem, except now you're making even less money. It's like, yeah, that's his brilliant solution. Just move to Texas. And think how crazy that is. Like, why do you have to move to a whole other goddamn state just to be able to do what? The bare minimum of live. Dude, that's like telling people that were in Flint, Michigan, where they didn't have water, just move to Colorado. Like, why do they have to move to another state just to have water? So I said people are real like they write like some of the stuff they write, it shows you that they don't think very much about what they're typing, but it also shows you that they really believe in this idea that you are supposed to just do anything and everything again for the bare minimum. Like if you want to afford a place to live each month with a job that doesn't fire you in like 2 weeks, 3 weeks like the ones out here do, um you're supposed to move to another state, however much that costs, and then like be separated from anyone you know. So again, if something happens to you, oh well. I'm just saying that's really disturbing. Just the way that people like their minds work, like the stuff they think you should have to do to be able to live. That's really crazy. Oh man. Now Jem was talking about those marked cars. I feel marked with this stuff when you keep applying to places and hear nothing back. It's like there must be some kind of hex. Welcome to predatory capitalism. Yeah, I tend to think of survival necessities as human rights. No, you don't have any human rights over here. If you want to live somewhere that's actually sustainable, you have to move to a whole other state and you have to take a over 50% pay cut because all the southern states pay people $7 an hour. They don't believe in minimum wage. If in fact, I wouldn't be surprised they tried. Yeah, like that's what's so crazy to me that like he really made it sound as if all these southern states are this utopia. Like give me a break. Because we were talking about Haley a few days ago and how when she was governor of South Carolina, she refused to expand. What was it, Medicaid, and how there were a whole bunch of elderly people in that state that didn't get any health care coverage and died. So there's a whole bunch of just awful stuff that happens over there too. In some cases, even worse than over here. I can't wait to work for $7 an hour. Dude, that's like the equivalent of 3 things of bottles over here. I blame voters for not paying attention. I'm not even joking. Some of these states scare me because they almost seem like they have this one so you know how like blue states, red states, but when you see how many people just don't have anywhere to live and or like they haven't had, because I said before minimum wage hasn't been increased since 2009. It's really scary just when you think about they like you could run on the exact same, I guess, economic positions of a higher wage, um, and then maybe something to the effect of like, let me think of something else. Like just do a whole campaign where it's unions, like union based work, right to work, collective bargaining, and you would get more. Like you're more inclined to get elected if you just run as a Republican and as a Democrat because that's how transfixed they are by these parties. Like you can have someone with the exact same positions, and if they just play up that same issue and just what I'm saying, like it's really scary that they'll vote for people who are offering them nothing just because of what's by their name. Oh man, it is sad. It is definitely sad. So I said this stuff just gets more and more crazier by the day. That's why I started doing the Williamson videos because I'm like, there's so many people who have no idea who she is. Like, it's not even funny just thinking about how every time I ask my, hey, do you know there's someone running against the incumbent president? They're like, oh, there is? Yeah, it wasn't for nothing that George Washington warned people about political parties. Well, yeah, between them and the electoral college, I mean, they've really just kind of made it to where the US is like a two faction system where if you go in, like, certain people have no desire to visit certain places because they've basically convinced themselves that, you know, they're not my kind of people. They're not like me, you know? Just like in California, um, if I remember correctly, Trump had his biggest vote total in this state. It was like, like I'm talking about like individual votes was like 6 million. And it's like, don't tell me that the electoral college is this extremely necessary thing because you could easily, right, if you get rid of it, have politicians visit Texas and um Wyoming and all the rest of these places where the actual vote totals are not that far apart from each other. It's kind of interesting how the red states like have varying degrees of red. Like some of them are 60, Republican to like 30 Democrat. They're not like me. Is such an arrogant way to think. Oh, being online, I hear people talk trash about California all the time. All those liberals in California. When you donate to someone that lives in another state, he's getting an influx of all that California money. And it'd be the damnedest thing because if you donate it to the person they like, hey, welcome to the team. They don't get mad at you for being from another state if you're supporting their person. No, political parties are just they're killing the US. That like them and um I don't know. Like I think I tried to tell Jem about this, how we have the jungle primary in California. So that makes it harder for a progressive to beat an incumbent because that means, like, let's say I run against somebody and I get more votes than them and we go to general. All their That's a wake up call to them. All their supporters can come. I'm not talking about their like actual grassroots fans. I'm talking about the donors can come and give them some money, pour it into the race, play ads on TV every day about I don't know what I'm doing, incompetent, da, 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 da. And then, if I lose, it was set up that way by a system that refuses to have individual primaries between the various parties. Uh, you know, that's again designed to help the incumbent, pull out a victory, no matter how little campaigning they actually do. I'm telling you, dude, the government has successfully turned the American people against each other. Americans absolutely hate each other. Oh, you don't have to tell me. It's really sad too because I'll never believe that people are supposed to be like fractured in this way. Like I just don't think human beings, especially ones that live in the same country, should just despise each other. And because like I said before, I'm all up for visiting the South or the North or any of these other parts of the region. I'm not afraid to go over there and talk to people and ask them about this stuff and you know get their position on it. But there's a lot of inflamed rhetoric. They're like, the liberals want a socialist takeover of America. I'm like, Jesus Christ, if you want to give people more access to healthcare and not have to go into debt when they're trying to get a degree, you're part of this evil regime that's going to infringe their free. It's just like that's the kind of stuff that really just pisses me off because it's this extremely what do you call it? Like it's really inflamed rhetoric that's purposely designed to like make you despise someone else, like not even just like dislike a candidate as far as not want to vote for them, but like make you really believe that person is like the devil incarnate. It's crazy. I think it's why Williamson talks about love so much. They mock her for it, but I do think she sees the root of the anger. Well, listen, smearing is something that you're going to get no matter what you talk about as far as like your actual policy position. So anyone who's for single payer or free college, especially if they're challenging the incumbent president, they're going to be put through the ringer. Except and the only times they won't be is when they're doing their blackout where they just don't talk about you. It's like, oh look, here's this person that's running that is the only actually announced major candidate in the race, but shh, be very very quiet. Oh yeah, we already know. And it's a real shame too, because like I said, in an actual democracy with public access television, you announce you're running for an office, it could be congressman, senator, president. You know what you would see? News agencies reaching out to you, hey, let's have an interview. Hey, let's bring you on to discuss your positions and why you think you would do a better job than the incumbent. Instead, you don't just get those out of the gate. Like, even if I got my name on the ballot, I'd still have to go around, door to door, explain to people, what my positions are because it's not going to get talked about on television. Because, like I said, this stuff is designed to be as unfair to people who are trying to get into it as possible. That's why I said my new congressperson, they didn't actually have to really do anything to win that seat. They just got endorsed by, the governor and all these other bigwigs, and rode their coattails to victory. And like I said, I was just in being in that district that year. I didn't see one campaign flyer. I didn't see one town hall. I didn't see one debate. Like maybe there was a debate, maybe, but I didn't see it. And that's the biggest problem I have with these a lot of these people when they don't have competition, they don't really feel like they have to do anything at all. Just here's my name. I'll say some vague crap about what I believe, and then you'll vote for me anyway. In Noticed, PBS interviewed Williamson in a very measured way as compared with CNN. Yeah, the interviewers can be pretty antagonistic. Because like I said, they're parroting the talking points of pretty much all of their enablers, Comcast and the rest of the crew. So really it's just one of those things where you kind of have to take the poison with the with the medicine, where it's like the medicine is getting coverage and like being allowed on TV to explain your positions, and the poison is like the weird framing of questions and just the general way it's like asked toward you. I'm telling you that how do you pay for it line, that thing is so overdone and ridiculous. And I just roll my eyes every time it's asked because it's been answered to death already. Like, how many times can you ask the same question before people get sick of it? Tell you when they pass those hundreds of billions of dollars of military budgets, nobody asks how do you pay for it? Not once ever. When they want to go to war with all these other regions like Iran or North Korea, nobody says how do you pay for it? I'm not even joking. The way they make it sound, you would really think that there's some kind of unwritten rule where when it comes to domestic programs, financing them is like very difficult and we're on this tight budget. But then when it comes to, like waging war and invading other countries, we have unlimited surplus of money. Go ahead, spend like crazy. Like I said, if Williamson really like pulled out of God, where do we even begin? Libya and Iraq and Syria, and all the rest of these places. Had some kind of peace agreement, took all the money that we used for those different conflicts to keep them going every year, and invested them back at home. You would see a real transformation of the U.S. and it would be like within a year or 2 years. I'm not even joking. It's a real shame how much stuff is just wasted on nothing. Like that's one of the biggest reasons I don't like money in politics. It's like for somebody to win a race, they need to have thousands of dollars usually because the person who has the most money wins, and sometimes it cracks into the millions. Like I'm what's his name? I think it was there was a house race in like 2017. And I remember that it was like I'm trying to remember what the guy's name. I think it was Ossoff or something. I don't know if it's the same one as the senator. I just know it was in Georgia, so it probably is the same guy. But I remember distinctively that like that race, they spent over $1 million. It was the most expensive house race ever, and I was like, all this for a little rinky-dink house seat that's going to get flipped in like 3 years anyway. Because that would be another thing I would discuss, just how you shouldn't have to raise hundreds of thousands or millions of dollars to run for office. Like that's absolutely absurd. I think the networks should also consider how good Williamson could be for their ratings. She's interesting and has some integrity. Yeah, but you know what? Again, the biggest issue is they're afraid that if they give her more and more coverage, they'll end up with a Trump 2016 situation where you give this person coverage, kind of like thinking that they're this joke, right? Oh, 70% behind the other person. And oh, damn, now they're 10% behind. Yeah, last year my brother and I visited South California or Southern California. Beautiful down there, but hot as the fires of hell. I don't know when you visited, but we've been having some very fluctuating weather. Like the same week where it rains twice, you could have the sun out. I'm really not even joking when I say that it fluctuates and changes a lot. I don't know. I just feel like campaigns have to, stand for something. Like to me, the most memorable campaigns have like a message or some kind of if it's not a slogan, it's like an actual series of policy positions. Um, and that's why so many people that run for office, like they're just these hollow. Because I said before that I do believe it's easier to win like a House or Senate seat than presidential races because there's a lot of factors that go into it and they're covered more often. Uh, more scrutiny, whatever, larger electorate. I'm telling you, some of these congressmen, like, they don't stand for anything. I mean, you go and you read their website. I went on my congressperson's website. Basically, no positions are listed. And they always have those same stupid ad where they're smiling and they're wearing a little suit and tie or dress or whatever, and it still is like nothing. All right, hold on. Uh, if the whole thing got knocked over. Well, yeah, I do believe. And this was I actually had this on and I turned it off. Okay. I guess I'll close the door back. Or push it, I suppose. Always my favorite interruptions. PBS is a public access right. Why does CNN and MSNBC get to moderate debates? It seems a bit blatantly special interest. Oh, it is. And they don't view their debates as public access because people have uploaded either the full debate or clips of it, and CNN has gone after them for doing that. I know that Pacman put up some clips of one of them where he was like trying to cover it on Twitch, and CNN took it down. They went after him, and that's really dangerous. But see, this goes back to my thing of how because they think people don't care, they feel like they can get away with this stuff. But it is really dangerous to have a debate. It doesn't have to be a presidential one, to have a debate between candidates for public office under some kind of private ownership. That's extremely dangerous. So yeah, it's one of those things where they got away with a lot of shady stuff. Like it's one thing if you try to put up the whole like episode of CNN, right? Like just a random clip of, them covering the news and then maybe they interview somebody, whatever. But the idea that you could have a public debate between candidates for office and you cover excuse me, you don't like actually, I'm talking about like it's one of those things where certain stuff needs to be available to people at all times. Like, oh, you can just go to our website. It's like, yeah, but how many people actually go to the website of any of these networks? Like, how many times do you see somebody going, oh man, I can't wait to go to CNN.com? Almost never. Really knock this thing over. Oh man, it's hard to stream, I tell you. People always calling and acting up and go do this, open that. Every time. They weren't even embarrassed. It was my first time seeing a US debate in 2019. I was a bit shocked by the way they handled it. Yeah, I personally think American debates are kind of like a joke of themselves. At least the ones that have come out like in the last I guess several years. And I came to that belief because from what I understand with debates, people are supposed to ask each other questions and actually like get their positions on it. But when you see like people saying like who won and highlights and it's all part of that same sensationalist crap. Because having 10 or 8 or 7 or even 6 people like debating each other, I already think is like stretching it too much. Like you shouldn't have that many people in one debate anyway. Um, but a lot of times they talk over each other. They have like people are asking, "Hey, can I respond? Can I respond to this?" It's not. I never feel like I walk away from those things more knowledgeable than I was before. Like I would rather watch, for example, excuse me, I'd rather read Sanders' book than watch him in 10 or 15 debates out of that last primary because I don't really feel like I would understand as much about his position from seeing some debate clips than, an actual detailed piece by piece breakdown of what he believes. Same thing with Williamson. Although in her case, I would probably rather just watch because she's had like some interviews, whatever, like where it's just her talking to somebody. I'd rather watch that than any debates. Even though I still do think they should happen, especially um this year, because or I guess next year as well, because it'll just be it seemingly appears it'll just be her versus Biden. So I'd be all up for the two of them just metaphorically duking it out. I certainly didn't need Kamala to filibuster Marianne's reparations speech just to hear Kamala take a shot at Biden and her insulting, and her instituting body cams. Look, Harris is someone who but man, what a chameleon. I mean, really tough on crime as attorney general. Then she gets into the Senate and she tries to do her best Sanders impression. Um, you know, she launches this really lousy presidential campaign that stands for nothing except getting Trump banned on Twitter. Uh, then becomes the VP for the same person that she was, so combative toward, and as VP has largely done nothing. Um, just a real waste, man. Just when it comes to debates, people act much more irrationally in large groups. It's better to have strictly uh, curated debates between two candidates. Yeah. Well, then, because you can go more into detail on what they believe. You don't have to sit here and this person gets like 5 minutes, this other one gets 10 minutes. You don't need to do that. That's one of the reasons why in a lot of movies, um, if they have a larger cast, they usually split them up where it's like group one of like 5 people, group two of 3 or 4 people. You know, it's one of those things where you have to like be able to give focus to certain people that you normally can't do in a very large gathering, like the ones we typically see from these debates. I didn't catch the PBS debates. Were those moderators better? Well, it's been a few years since I've seen any of them, but I mean, I guess I don't know. It's just kind of depressing watching those and then knowing how the election would turn out. Like here's all these different people. You've got Yang with his UBI. You have Williamson with a lot of her progressive ideas, saying, and then Gabbard with foreign policy, and Sanders with you know a whole bunch of stuff. Who was originally taken as like a joke during his first campaign. Like it's just sad that you had all of these really unique people who actually had something to offer to the race, and then they all kind of just got sideswiped for this retiree that we all thought had finished even like wanting to run for office. Like I don't know, just it's just kind of depressing just to think about. I'm just saying, like in hindsight, watching that stuff is just kind of depressed to me because it's like You had all of these people that I would have supported. Like if they were the nominee, I would have voted for. And none of them made it. It's just that's why I said like that stuff is not really that great to me. But again, I recognize the historical value of it. And like I said, we really should not see anyone like sitting here and being against debates, I guess, as far as like you should be able to post clips of that stuff and not have to worry about being gone after by one of these dumb networks. God, it was. I went outside. It's cold. It was rain. It was raining yesterday, and then it stopped. And it was sunny the day before that. Your impersonation of political piece was legendary. I could not stop laughing. I mean, my thing is, I've read a lot of dumb editorials from different sites. The Hill has several of them. So usually, if I see like a headline that kind of looks weird, I already know what kind of tone it's going to have. And really, I was kind of disappointed because, in general, I like print sources more than TV ones. Like I'd rather read articles from the Hill or Politico than watch CNN or MSNBC. So to see them devalue themselves by running an article like that, it's just one of those things where I was able to catch on to it just because it's a source I usually go to, and most of their stuff is neutral. They're just reporting the news. So whenever they have an editorial that's just bonkers, it is something to be made fun of. It's stupid. And really, I'm just tired of living in this era where it seems like everyone that runs for something, after they start doing well, or even if they just, like there's like a clear direction for them to go, you have somebody or some group of people come out and say, 3 years ago, this person did this to me. 5 years ago, this person did this to me. 10 years ago, this person like, I'm just sick of it. I'm really tired of these allegations that just appear, out of the blue. And like, and you just get tired of seeing the same pattern repeat itself over and over. So yeah, to me, it was just a big joke. Like the fact that they're trying to smear her is not funny, but the article itself is, because of how it really tries to make these people seem like they've been so traumatized working for someone to where years later they're like all going on this thing. But of course they can't be bothered to identify any of them except two people, one of whom actually did get in trouble for forcing himself on someone. And it's like that's the person who's going to be a character witness for right and wrong and conduct. Are you kidding me? I'm not joking. It feels like every single race, if it gets, if it's either a run for national office or even something smaller, if it gets enough attention, you can count on someone coming out the woodworks to say, this many years ago, this person did this many years ago, this person did that. Because I don't know if you remember, but they tried doing the same thing to Trump, where they were trying to say that he had you know uh I'm trying to put it in the way where I don't get demonetized. They tried to say that he had committed an act of aggression toward his original wife, and it was only like she came out and debunked it from what I remember, but it's like it really took them it really took him running for president and like becoming the front runner for you guys to come out with this story. Same thing with that Hollywood Access tape. It's like you guys had this tape for 11 years and you kept it hidden this whole primary. And then only after he gets the nomination does this get released. Like, why? Because remember, that's not like a a person that is being violated in the video. It's him saying some really nasty, weird stuff. Uh, which if they had put that out before, maybe it might have hurt him. So and it's like that was the point of releasing it, to hurt him. So why would you wait until he becomes the nominee to put something out like that? Like I said, the timing of that stuff is always what gets me to not believe it. Hey, you want another example? Look at Herman Cain. I mean, he runs for president, and then all these women are like, "Oh, he did this," and then after the race was done, they vanish. After he gets out the race, you don't hear anything more about it. No pursuing of litigation, nothing. Like not false allegations and just allegations in general coming out right as someone is running for something. You should always take with a grain of salt. Like you need to have proof. You need to have um, some kind of evidence. Yeah, the amazing vanishing women. I mean, like I said, if Williamson was this extreme terror, why did it take him 3 years and her running again for them to say something? Talking about her screaming like, "Oh man, no one's ever screamed before." Because if I'm running for office and you know either I'm doing poorly or people are calling me any kind of name because that's what they do when you run, especially if you run for like president, for example. I'm probably going to be mad too and yell and be like, "Hey, what the?" I mean, I, I don't really, even if that were correct, that's really something where you're like, I'm going to cancel this person over for real. Hey, good to catch your stream. Hope you're all right and that we can actually have a stable stream this time. Oh, Megumi, I have a new edited video I think you'll really like. It's about that article. You know which one I'm talking about. Now, you had asked me on, I think it was last Monday, about like why people don't join unions, right? To like actually have protections on them as workers. And I completely forgot to tell you that we have a thing called union busters where you have these elected officials that either fire a bunch of people or um, they work with corporations to like put things in contracts that are against collective bargaining, or like just they do like little tricks to make it to where it's hard for people to actually form these groups together. So that was one thing I forgot to mention. I don't know how that went over my head. I totally forgot about union busters in that moment. I feel so ignorant. Oh, really? That's wild and very sickening. Well, remember, I told you the U.S. is an oligarchy. When you have a public policy that is trash, it's usually because someone paid for it to be that way. Just like we were talking on Saturday about all the mass shootings that happen every day in America, and how no one ever tries to do anything to actually fix them. And the reason for that is because the NRA, National Rifle Association, pays politicians to vote down any gun control measures. It could be something as tame as, hey, let's have like some background checks, make it to where people can't just go into a store, buy a gun, and now they have a firearm. They'll be against that too because it lowers their sales. They're fine with crazy people murdering innocent people, because they know it'll be talked about in the news for like a week, 2 weeks, maybe a month, and then that'll be over, and they can continue making their money. And then when another one happens in a few months, that'll get talked about as well. But in general, as long as their profits are in margin, then they're not really too concerned. Well, it's just I guess the overall theme is that it's just me tying the article back into like a lot of the stuff I said, and how it really confirms just that people who tried to make me seem crazy were in and of themselves the actual crazy ones. So many people took that hit piece of Trump as gospel, shows how easily Americans fall for propaganda. Yeah, but at the cost of lives, they are playing these people's lives. Pretty much any moron can go to a store and purchase a firearm. Well, that's why I was telling you about state laws. Where like in California, it's kind of difficult to get one because you have to go through a background check. But if I really wanted a gun, I could just drive to Arizona, which is one of the neighboring states, or Nevada, and purchase one, and that would be it. There would be no background check. There's no like that. Like that's what I'm saying. That we have laws, the state laws, right? That you can bypass by just going to another state. And you don't have to get like in a plane or anything. You just drive to another state, and now you have this thing that would be much harder to get another one. It's the same thing with cannabis. Like you can smoke weed over here in Colorado, but you go to one of those red states, or some even a lot of the close ones by us, and you can't do it. So I'm not a fan of state laws for that reason, because they anytime you try to really crack down on something, a person can get around it by just traveling to the nearby state that doesn't have that same policy. It's really goofy because people are like, "Your gun laws don't work." It's like, how are they supposed to when people can just bypass them by driving for like what 3 hours, 4 hours to get the same thing they couldn't get over here without going through checks? So it's just it is crazy. Gay marriage was like that. And you like Megumi, one of these days I'll do a video. There used to be, I remember there was a map. It showed all the states where gay marriage was legal. And what would people who want to get married do? They would go from the state where it was illegal to the one where it was legal. So like if you were in Nevada and you were, with somebody of the same gender, and you're like, oh, they won't let us get married. Time to go to California. And then they go over there and they get married. Now that changed when the Supreme Court in 2015 legalized it all across the country. But again, it's like state laws are just they're the worst. I tell you, state laws are the reason why in California the minimum wage is 15, but if you go to like Texas, it's $7.25. In that case, I don't mind state laws because if we didn't have them, I couldn't have a higher wage. But then it's like at this point, you should get mad at the federal government for not raising it to something higher after over 10 years. I mean, that's insane. No, Megumi, I know you're not into politics, but there's a lot of weird and crazy stuff over here. There's a lot of strange things that happen that if it's just explained to you in this like brief way, I'm sure you'll be intrigued. You'll be like, wow, really? You have that? Laws over here just they're very inordinate. Just like I remember when I was working at that retailer and people would buy alcohol, and I'd have to, as part of the store policy, I would have to ask them to see their ID. And some of the people that would come in there would get mad at me like, I have gray hair. You think I'm under 18? It's like it's the policy of the store. Like I obviously know the person's an adult, but I have to advise. You know what I'm saying? With how like you get blamed for stuff out of your control. Like I'm adhering to the policy of the store. It's a policy I didn't make, but when I have to follow nonetheless. And it got to a point where the manager was like, "Hey, just when you see someone that you could tell is older, just type in like a random age." I was like, "All right, but don't get mad at me for like I didn't make this rule." No, that's why I said of like how you can if you just enforce a law, you'll get like people mad at you for that. I suppose I could say that is one advantage we have over the US is that it is more difficult to purchase firearms, although there are ways obviously around it, but less common here. Well, yeah, you don't have as many guns, you don't have as many mass shootings. I mean, you know, I'll freely admit the UK is safer to live than here. You know, you have certain towns in America that are the equivalent of like just I don't even want to call them hellholes, like just dangerous places like Chicago. People were calling that Chirac because of all the not mass shootings, just the random killings that happen over there. The highest murders per capita out of any of them, and it's I've had people who live there. They're like, oh well, there's the good part, there's that part, but I wouldn't want to live next to what is irrefutably the most dangerous city in the entire country. Like I know of people who are from America, like myself. They don't even want to step foot over there with stray bullets and drive-bys and just a really dangerous place. And I feel really bad for the people that live there and can't move. A lot of children have died over there from just the savageness of man. And for a long time, the politicians that were supposed to be cleaning the city up did nothing about it. Because one of the mayor from not the current one got ousted, but before that, they had this guy Emmanuel. He was a real weasel because if you have a city that has reached the dubious honor of being the murder capital of the entire nation, what do? You order a shutdown. You close the area off. You try to get it under control because you're cracking down on all this violence. You order curfews, but instead he sat there and as people killed each other and killed each other and killed each other, he just raked in his money and then moved on to something else. And for that reason, he will always be one of the politicians I dislike the most out of any of the current crop of them, because there's no excuse to me how you can have a city that is the most dangerous in the nation and you do nothing about. And there's plenty of things that a mayor can do. Well, that is if they care. If they don't, then whatever. God, I'm kidding. If I ever go to Illinois, I'll go to Springfield. I'll go to every part outside of Chicago. That's one area you will never catch me in. Too damn dangerous. And I feel really bad for a lot of people that live there. Anytime you have to sit there and duck your head under something and look down the street, I feel bad for all those people because in every city there's people who don't commit violence that just they have to live around this crap, and I find that to be very sad. The legacy of Al Capone. I don't know. It's one of those things that really disgusts me because, like I said, people who hold office are supposed to represent the people, and if there's a crisis, they're supposed to respond to it with the powers that have been given to them by those that voted them in. So to have this creep that just sits there year after year while people destroy each other in the city that he runs, you know, it's really nasty. It's most likely one of the main reasons I don't see the full purpose in voting. I feel it makes very little difference, if any at all, especially for the party I'd vote for. That sounds most reasonable, of course. They don't end up winning. Well, over here we have the two-party system where you'll actually have the members of the Green Party whose views are, in my opinion, much better than most of the than either members of the two-party system, where they have views about wanting to protect the environment, wanting to get money out of politics. And they don't win, not because they're bad candidates, but because they don't get covered by the media. There's a stigmatization around voting for someone who's not of the major two-party system. And a lot of times they just don't have the funds to really, mount a successful campaign. But what's really unfortunate is that, because you were saying of how you don't see the full purpose in voting. I'm telling you, a lot of people that win, if you break down the demographics of who they get support from, it's mostly older people. Like the gap between younger people that vote, teenagers, I guess 18, to 29 or whatever, young adults, whatever, versus 60 plus is astounding. And I guess for me, I don't really see that as a fault of the voter. I see it as a fault of the candidates, because someone who runs for office should make a direct attempt to those younger people to say, you know what, I get where you feel like this stuff is just a waste of time. Oh yeah, the younger voters, you might get maybe 10-20% of them to vote. Because in the US, that's a big problem we have, where any given election, you could have 40% of the eligible people vote. So not even half of, of the electorate is even participating in the process. And then we get these crappy candidates and everybody's scratching their head trying to figure out why. It's yeah, because no, people are not engaged with this stuff. But again, that's something that I think the candidates have to bear some blame for as well. I don't know any candidates who visit schools or really try to do anything to reach out. I've seen a few, right? But as far as on the local level of running for a House seat or for a Senate seat, they don't even bother. What they do, this is the average campaign. Some person who's usually held office before sits down in a room with some millionaires, billionaires, and they're like, hey guys, I'm thinking of running for this office, maybe a Senate seat, maybe this other thing. Can you guys pour some money into my campaign? They say, okay, yeah, we'll give you some money, but you have to do a favor for us. So again, they're already compromised. Then when they run, because they can't actually do anything since they're bought by the corporations, they're like, I want to restore our community, and all these nebulous phrases that mean nothing, right? So then when they run and they have no one running against them, they're able to win again because they're the only person you've heard of, and they have all these endorsements that make them seem like they're more professional or better than the rest of the people, even though they're actually not. It's just unfortunately, the rest of the people don't have money or don't even really campaign that hard, so you never find out who they are. Like I said, if I ever ran for Congress, I wish Jem had stayed, but if I ever ran, I would knock on every damn door in that district. Doing that, hey, I'm running, can you sign this paper? And then they ask what my positions are. It is rigged. Megumi, over 90% of the time, the person who raises the most money wins the election. So let me just say this. If I ran for something, again, I have no donors. I'm not meeting with any billionaires or millionaires. I'm just, running. I have my little account. I say, go to, type this in and you can donate if you want to. If I ran, I have a 90% chance of losing, not because I'm a bad candidate, not because I'm not reaching out to people, simply because I don't have as much money as my opponents. Because with enough money, my opponent can run attack ads. Hey, they usually just ignore you unless you do really well in the primary, and then they start just going after you like crazy. But my opponent at first will ignore me because that's what they do. They're dismissive of people that run against them. And then if I end up getting in the general election, where it's just me versus them, they get to run ads on TV attacking me, saying, "Hey, this guy incompetent, doesn't know what he's doing, never held office before." Um, I wouldn't be surprised if they said I hate women. That's another smear that people like to throw out. So really, it ends up becoming a thing where the race is so tilted in favor of the person with the coins. Now, the coins don't change people's votes, but they do allow for certain messages to get out there because they're granted more advertisements and access to people via television. At least the doorbells aren't rigged. Like I said, the only way to overcome a lot of this stuff is just to expand the electorate. Like I really believe if you get younger voters to actually back you, you can smash a lot of these bastards. Like Megumi, the voter turnout in America is atrocious. It is really unfair. Because remember, as a first-time person who's doing this stuff, I'm not used to being attacked over, whatever, or just completely ignored. And the person I'm running against, they have the full backing of the governor of my state, various sitting members of Congress. Um, they have backing of financial investors in their campaign, these donors, these big $1 million donors, $100,000 donors. And all of these people work together to push back against the insurgent person who is not beholden to anybody except the voters. So yeah, it is really unfair. But this stuff is designed, Megumi, as I said before, to be as difficult as possible for, especially for people who've never done it before. Like to get your name on the ballot, you have to get all these signatures. If you want to figure out how to make a campaign account, you have to like fundraising account. You have to go to the FEC or Federal Elections Commission. It's designed to be as like there's not really a person who just in most instances will just sit you down and explain you have to do this and you do this and you do that, just to kind of like lead you through it. And a lot of people who get somewhere in that stuff are usually playing the game of rotation and climbing and scratching each other's back. You had our governor and the current vice president, then the senator. Before they ran for their respective races, they were like, "Hey, I'll run for this, you run for that. Let's not challenge each other. You are owed this seat. I'm owed this seat." So it is really unfair. Like I said, for me to want to get in this stuff, I have to really make sure that my heart is in it, because it takes a lot to beat the machine. Yeah, get ready for some smearing. Like I said, the first thing they'll do is they'll just completely ignore me because that's what they do with anyone that starts this stuff usually. But if I get a vote total that's like close to or even bigger than the person that is actually holding the seat, uh, then you can expect the smears and the attacks and the nastiness. It's so interesting how the more I look at this stuff and just have seen races, I realize that like for me, I would talk about like what my opinions are, what my positions are, what I'm in favor of, etc. But I've noticed that this stuff isn't really about like for a lot of these people, they don't actually stand for anything. So they have to like sit here and tell you nasty stuff about the person to run against. So their way to win is to, for lack of a better term, crap on the other candidate. I'm telling you, it's really sad. But But yeah, Megumi, American politics is very unfair. It's unfair when like the way that voters are treated after they elect these people. It's unfair to anyone that tries to get involved in this stuff that's an outsider like myself. You know, it's just one of those things where you have to really just accept that stuff is not in favor of you. You're not going to be given a fair shake, at least when it starts, you know. So it's I try to look on the bright side. There are a few bright sides, you know. I would rather be someone who doesn't have financial support than another one of these corporate you know, blowers that just wants to that go, you know, goes whichever way the donors tell them to. Um, I do think, you know, me running would actually serve a purpose because there's multiple issues that I would discuss that don't get mentioned. Pardon me for not really believing we'll ever be able to elect someone who's actually for the environment and actually cares about people for the greater good. Well, people like that have been elected. It's just in small amounts. Oh, it is real scummy. Like I said, the U.S. is an oligarchy. It's controlled by a lot of people, by a excuse me, by a small group of people with a lot of money, and usually they play divide and conquer to get people to, you know, not get the support or the actual representatives that they should have to make changes. That's why I said anytime there's something that is screwed up over here, it's usually relating to money and people, you know, getting paid to just not do something, you know. So I was talking about with you before our healthcare system and how it's so much it's very inferior to what you have in the UK. And one of the reasons for that with the for-profit healthcare system is that companies like Big Pharma get off on being able to take medicine, right? Like I think I mentioned to you that insulin over here costs like over $100, but then you can get it for like 20 something in other developed countries. And a big part of the reason for that is because we don't allow the negotiating of drug prices, again, because Big Pharma donates to politicians who subsequently turn a buck and don't and they're fine with medicine, essential stuff that people need to survive, costing more uh because the person that paid them is making, you see how it's how like scratch my back, I scratch your back. And every time you say, hey, look, I think people should have a right to health care. I don't think you should have to lose your coverage if you don't work at whatever place you worked at before. Guess what you'll hear? You want a socialist takeover of medicine? I'm like, what are you talking about? Like, you give somebody the bare minimum of, you know, the standard coverage they would get in, you know, the UK or Canada, and that, and those aren't. I don't remember the UK being a socialist dictatorship where nobody has freedom. So, you know, that's why I said a lot of it is like running on this red scare where they try to like make people afraid with these terms that don't actually address the substance of an argument. It's all just really disingenuous when it's put together. Like a lot of the responses to a position that someone doesn't agree with are just smearing. Um, that's why, if, for example, you criticize the Israeli government, the Israel government, right? Not Jewish people, nothing about religion. You get called anti-Semitic, and you're like, now wait a second. I was complaining about a government that treats a group of people, the Palestinians, like trash, kicks them out of their houses, bombs them. You know, I we're criticizing a government, a non-living entity, right? That's run by some people who happen to be Jewish, but their religion is not anything that we take issue with, and you're called anti-Semitic. And I'm also the same supposedly anti-Semitic person that wanted a Jewish person to be president 3 years ago, but I guess that gets forgotten. Well, I'm not surprised because this era really has turned into a bunch of name calling. Nobody wants to really hear out what others have to say. Mm-mm. I mean, hey, you saw when we were criticizing women, we were like, hey, you shouldn't have 50 guys trying to get a date with one girl. You're an I word. It's like, so if you criticize women, you're part of a subculture that you never joined. Really? And just look at the disparity, man. Like, I'm telling you, you can go on Twitter any day of the week and you can find women talking trash about men, which I think they should have the right to do. But then if you say something about not even all of them, just like in general, like, hey, I didn't like that some of them did this, you're an I word. I'm like, okay, whatever. You can never have any legitimate grievances with them whatsoever. I tell you, the crazy part about that stuff is that I've seen so many men who were like with a woman and they would talk about how, man, I'm tired of her calling me. She's so annoying. You know what I'm talking about, right? Like act like the men who critique women includes men who've been with them who are like, yeah, this person was not that great. It's a slur now. Yeah, I mean they just throw out these terms, Aaron. They don't, no one actually listens to anyone's points anymore. They just hit you with some fancy slur and then run off. I already said before, I'm not part of anyone's team or organization, but somehow I'm apparently part of a subculture that I've never affiliated with. Dude, one of my favorite videos was this one guy that somebody called him an I word, and he was like, no, or they asked him, "Are you an I word?" Because of him criticizing women. He was like, "Does it come with a good pension plan?" And then he made like a fake, like letter from the I Word Association, and it was like, "Hey, if you join our group, we give you free dental coverage, and you're part of our healthcare plan, and we're gonna promote your videos, and we're gonna like." It was just so funny, like just the idea that like there's actually an organized like group of men that like that talk trash about women and they actually help each other, like they have a whole like the healthcare plan, you get a job, you get supported on your channel, you're part of the affiliates. Yeah, they get dental. He really made like a fake letter where in like on the corner it says I Word Association, Single Man USA, or some fake city. I said before, I'm not part of anyone's team, but if they were doing stuff like that, I would be tempted. At least then they're actually helping you with something. I mean, hey, by the way, that slur gets flung around. That would make sense hypothetically. And dude, like, what's crazy to me is because I remember the tone of my earlier like content about that topic. I was polite. I didn't call anybody out of their name. I was civilized, right? And what did I receive? I was called out of my name. I was attacked. Um, over my appearance and personality and all this other stuff, right? And I was like, because I do believe this, if people online are allowed to say whatever they want about you, you should be able to say whatever you want about them. That's my belief that you if they're able to speak with complete impunity and with regard to insulting you and all this other stuff, you should be able to say the same stuff back. I think that's only fair. That's why like everything's always like, how could you say this about women? I'm like, look at all the slurs that were thrown my way. I did a whole video, my popular color, and no one, none of these people that took the moral high ground said anything. None of them came to my defense and said, hey, I don't agree with him, but you don't have to call him that. Not a one. So they really have no leg to stand on when it comes to trying to like play the moral high ground because their side had people who said that type of stuff and they didn't care. I still go back to watch the videos sometimes. Reading the comments, however, most of them are just calling you names instead of addressing what you said in the video. Yeah, they found it very difficult to actually respond to my points. I see that's like I guess you need like a degree or something to just make basic argumentation. I understand we need to click away from this very scary, yeah, woman hate. Yeah, I hate women so much that I want the woman who's running to be president, yeah, over the man. That totally makes sense. That's a real logical statement on their part. I tell you, people don't think when they start doing their smears, they just throw terms around and hope it sticks. But I was saying that you can't be nasty towards someone and then not expect them to respond accordingly. That's why the concept of like the glass cannon exists, where somebody can call you all types of gross terms, but then if you respond to them in a way that's akin to how they spoke to you, it's like the end of the world. Like, how could you say this about me? It's like look at what you called me. So I said it's just it's inconsistency. People are, they're I don't know what they are. They're sometimes they act really nasty. And then other times they try to like, I guess, pretend they have some civility. It's really humorous. I think they have an identity crisis where they don't really know what they are. Hey, and my favorite comment ever, if you make content about your difficulties with getting a relationship, women will not want to be with you. It's like they already weren't with me to begin with. That's like they like to compare getting a date to getting a job. That's like telling somebody that works that wants a job and then get one. Oh, if you make videos complaining about not having a job, employers won't hire you. It's like they already weren't. So you get the same effect. I am invested in your growth. That's why I never show up to any of your streams or videos. I subscribed 2 years ago and never left a single damn comment after the first one, and then randomly appeared today. Dude, you know what? Now that article confirms that what is it? 60% of men in, like, by his logic, 60% of young men in America are mediocre. I'm never forgetting that stupid crap because it's like, who is he to say that to me? Like the same guy who will sit here and analyze your body and talk about how he doesn't see you as having physically changed. Like this is the same person whose avatar was a picture of a football player that he stole. And that's who you're supposed to take seriously as a determining person and whether you're good or not. Are you kidding me? Dude, one of my favorite comments was on this one video. Because sometimes we were talking about like predictions, and sometimes people make predictions about like the distant future. And this guy did a video and he asked, do you think at some point men will like as a just in general, but not everybody, of course, will like wear women's clothing? And he answered yes. And in the comment section, somebody was like, men are not going to want to wear their stuff because they will feel embarrassed and think it'll make it hard for them to get a. It's like, but if the women already were not attracted to them when they wore regular male clothing, then what difference does it make if they wear female stuff? I mean, if like it's that same doctrine of if you do this thing, this new thing, right, you didn't do before, you're going to get the same result you already got before, but we're going to pretend that the new thing you do is the reason you got the result you already had. You know what I mean? Like no, we saw that when the person wore the regular men's stuff, they got no response from women, not so why would they feel discouraged to wear the women's stuff if they're still going to get if they're susceptible to getting the same response anyway? So it's one of those things where it really actually doesn't matter. I mean, if like, I hope what I'm saying makes sense here. If you were already getting turned down when you wore regular men's stuff only, and then like you still don't getting attention from them when you wear female stuff, then what difference did it actually make? I'm just saying, man, I'm getting like more and more like just not concerned about them. I'm telling you, like every time people try to do that thing of if you do this, they will not, they already don't. I approached them for years, didn't make a single video. And at a certain point, I was like, all right, forget it. I'll say something about this. Dude, Megumi, imagine like some guy and he wears like just like, let's say just a suit, right? Suit and tie. Asks some woman out, she turns him down. And same thing repeats itself year after year. And then one day he's like, you know what? I'm gonna just go out and I'm gonna wear I don't know, let's say some like a skirt or whatever, right? And people are like, oh my God, if you wear this and women know you wear this, then they won't like you. It's like, but they already didn't. Like the red scare for that doesn't work because it was all their position will be like was already confirmed to have been that before you even start doing this. Because I don't think anybody should be able to tell you what you can and can't wear, or um like my policy is anything you want to do as long as it's legal, you should be able to do. I know that sometimes there are certain places where they do have rules. Like there was this one apartment I was looking at, they don't want anybody to have pets. I don't have any, so that's not an issue for me. But that's where I would defer to someone's judgment. You go to a place you have to wear a uniform. Again, that's different. But as far as like just in your day-to-day life, I just don't see the point of caring anymore. Like I don't. I feel like there's so much antagonism that you already get that any more is just kind of like impossible at this point. Well, there are some places that have requirements of like what to wear. Like I know there was this one so this commentator got accused by this woman of like coming on to her, like making some inappropriate comments. And of course, like they always do, she waited multiple years to say something about him supposedly doing this. And had no proof because that's how this cycle goes. But she and a lot of other people took offense with him saying that like her outfit was inappropriate or like it looked like it was something from a raven. They were like, oh, you're shaming her for her attire. But actually, what ended up happening, and he tried to make this point, is that this is a person who works at a university out here, And at that same school, they have a requirement of like you have to show up in professional attire. You can wear jeans on Friday, and if you don't, you'll be like sent home. So there are rules for what to wear at, like, you know what I'm talking about, when you're working or in a certain professional capacity. I don't care if you don't like people saying stuff about women's clothing or not. There are certain things that they're required, even if the terms are kind of nebulous. You know, professional attire can mean a lot of stuff. I had people who told me to show up to this interview in professional attire, and the lady interviewing me literally had some red sneakers on. So, you know, like, it could mean a lot of things. I'm just saying that his point was, it is legitimate to say, you know, to like critique attire if they're in a professional setting where they're supposed to have a certain attire. Yeah, masculinity is already such a fluid idea. There isn't much masculinity anymore anyway, so it doesn't matter. Dude, like, what's like, listen to these people's logic. What's masculine about doing whatever it takes to get with a woman? What's masculine about listening to a bunch of people on a computer who, as far as you and I know, have never actually accomplished anything themselves? What's masculine about not wanting to do the things you want to do because you're afraid that somebody else might be upset over it? Like, how is any of that masculine? I'm just asking, what is masculine about adhering to the standards of a bunch of people? And like I said, it would be one thing if it was like, oh, um, this, like, you know, let me give you an example. Because there are certain people whose opinion would matter to me or to somebody else. But if it's like a random person, you know, down the street, who cares? Like, they're not there. Like, what are they going to do for you? I really want to know what is masculine. I don't know what's up with my tone of voice at this point, but what about that is seen in doing anything and everything to appeal to another group of people and allowing someone else's opinion to dictate the things you do? I'd love to know. Like, what about that is strong? I still think the best troll idea I ever had was like doing a stream where I like have the like some female attire on, and I'm like, people were complaining about my outfit, so I listened to them and got something. You know what I'm talking about, right? Like just trolling. I'm just saying, I'm at a certain point, it really does feel like it doesn't matter anymore. This stuff is just a parody on it onto itself. Oh, it absolutely is. And really, for me, I've always been surrounded by these relatives that were obsessed with clothes. Like, I have certain, and it's not that many of them. I have like two of them, for example, who I kid you not, if I wear a shirt that's a different color, they know. So like, oh, you're wearing a green shirt, you're wearing a red shirt. It's like, dude, it doesn't matter. Just like whatever. Go on with your day. It's not even like a compliment. It's just like a weird, you know, like hyper focus on such a minute detail. You know what I mean? Um, but yeah, like this stuff is just it is a joke. And I said before, how do you have a fair, equal society where women can wear whatever they want and we're discouraged to say anything about it? But if you're a man, you have to have on this type of outfit and have this, like, it doesn't, that doesn't make sense to me. That's why I said so much fake feminism is just coming off in waves because people tell you one thing and then they practice something else. Megumi, you and this woman are equal to each other. That's why she can wear whatever she wants, including your stuff. But you know, I mean, if you plenty of her crap, oh man, it's gonna be the end of the world. LOL, I know I get this too from some of my relatives as well. Just because I was wearing a cardigan I've had for some years that keeps me warm. But my thing is like if somebody wants to compliment you and say, hey, I like, this, that's one thing. Even though we had a conversation about how I purposely don't say anything, even if I like something, because too many like chicks will get I'm talking about like I just don't trust them to not try to like start something over it. But I was just saying, outside of when people compliment you, they really should have nothing to say about your attire unless maybe it's a work environment, you know. But if it's just your day-to-day life where you're just driving around, you go and pick up whatever, just like your day off, time off, there really should be no excuse for them to say anything. God, man, people just it really is a parody. It's all just this big joke, man. Because like I said, I look at a lot of the female stuff and it's got different styles and lengths and you know it's so much more customizing than what men have. I've said that before, but it's like God, like you could get 10 things in the same color from theirs and they would all look different and be distinguishing from each other. Yeah, they do. They have the whole spectrum. Because remember, they're not just limited to their own stuff, but they can wear men's clothes as well. Nobody says anything. Brown, black, and gray. You know what? That was a conversation we had about like we're so restricted that we even have certain colors that we can't wear. Like you go to a business meeting or whatever professional setting that people think they're having, and you can have a black suit, blue suit, gray suit, maybe a brown one, and then what do women have? They have suits of those same colors, dresses of those same colors, red, green, yellow, pink. I already found it very weird and strange because I feel pretty much anything you wear, someone will always find a problem with or question why you're wearing what you have. Yeah, especially in such an image conscious society as America. I mean, but you understand my point of how if you're going to be attacked over your attire when you wear regular men's stuff as a man, then what is the incentive to not, if you like it, also wear female stuff? I mean, if you're already being attacked for regular male attire, then what incentive do you have to not experiment or try with or do something that is conventionally considered more taboo? Because like I said, my biggest thing for clothes is I just have to feel comfortable, and a lot of that female stuff does look comfortable. Why would you even care at this point? It's like we're gonna attack you for just throwing on a shirt and some pants and a jacket. So uh you should care what we have to say about you, but we already have shown we'll attack you for men's stuff. So I guess if you wear female stuff, we'll attack you for that too, even though we already were going to attack you no matter what. And we showed that when we attacked you for stuff that you already wore that was for men. Whatever you put on, they'll attack you anyways. Yeah. And I told you one of their favorite Red Scare tactics was, oh, if you wear women's clothing, then women won't be attracted. It's like they already weren't. It's like, oh, if you do this new thing, they will continue to do what they have always done. Oh man. I was really gonna hold out until 2030 to put on whatever I like. God, how will I live? man, how will I go on knowing that the same group of people who were not attracted to me when I wore men's stuff will not like me if I wear women's stuff? Oh man, what 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 will I do? Because if women don't find me attractive, there's no reason to go on. They pay my bills and they support me. If I've lost them, I've lost the will to live. You think I'm kidding, man? So many times when you want to do something, there's always a person or a group of people who tell you not to do it. There's always someone who's like, "Oh, if you do this, this will happen." Um, and I said, like I always have a hard time taking it seriously because there's so many instances where you have people that nitpick. Like, listen, I've had um, women that I've thought were attractive, and maybe they wear something I didn't like, but usually if I enjoy speaking to them, it doesn't matter. Um, and I really don't think it's my place to tell someone what they can and can't wear. Like if they ask me, I'll say I like this, whatever. Um, but it's so hard for me to take it seriously because you get punished for like the most basic of stuff, like uh let me read what Megumi wrote. It's a disparity, and it's always never made sense to me how men are met with such huge scrutiny over the very minor frivolous things like clothing on what you wear on a daily basis. But chicks don't get that type of scrutiny or hyper focused on. In fact, they're encouraged to not have any scrutiny whatsoever. I can't tell you how many times I've seen a man say something about what a woman had on, and then people are like, "You are trying to shame her for her attire." And I swear to you, I have never made a single video talking about the attire of a woman ever. Like that's just never happened because it's not something I really want to get bogged down in. um I'd much rather focus on behavior. But I'm telling you, it's like they have really gained this plot armor where you can't criticize them at all. While if you're a man, people just lay into you. I mean, it's really crazy. Because like I said, I try to be, fair. I don't want men to be miserable and not be able to wear what they want. And there's a whole bunch of guys that wear stuff I don't wear or necessarily like, but I'm not going to tell them what do they have on and stare at them and get angry. Like it doesn't matter to me. I got too much of my own problems. So it's just one of those things where I really do push for fairness because I do want people to be able to have on what they want. Um, you know, and just act like there's a semblance of 50-50, even though I know there isn't and everything is slanted in favor of women, but still like I just wish there was at least an attempt to pretend that there was some even amount, because like I said, I noticed that if I go to or even like just see pictures on Google of some like business meeting, all the men look the same. They all have their suits that are some mixture of some dark colors, black, brown, blue, gray. But then the women, all types of different outfits, man. All types. Some of them have just a suit with pants. Some have a suit with a dress or skirt, whatever. Some have like I mean, and then those come in all kind of different colors. So yeah, they are a much more visually distinct, expressive group than we are. It's the truth. Yeah, and I like that. I like being able to see how people like have certain styles and things that it makes them stand out. They look unique from each other. They're not just all copies wearing the same thing. And that's why I said I'm just getting more and more resistant to like having a suit on or because I really hate the again, the impartiality of it all. Like, I don't enjoy that every guy has to wear the same damn thing except in a few different colors. But then again, women have all these different options. Dude, it's like that with like with their swimwear too. Like some of them have on that like a bikini where it's like that top bra part and the bottom part, or like a full bathing suit where it's like up here to like, like a full on body thing. Like again, like even something as minor as waterwear, they still have more options and distinctions and variety. I mean, we were talking about hairstyles too, where like uh people get mad at some men for having like long hair. I think that's really dumb personally, because again, I'm in favor of people just stylizing in whatever way they like. Um, but then you have women with short hair, long hair, no hair in some cases. Like I'm just for me, it's all just about variety. Like I just want people to be able to express themselves and not have to feel ashamed that they it's just people are frustrating with their double standards and their attempts to make somebody afraid of. I don't even know what they're trying to make you afraid of. Oh no, women will not like you if you wear this. They didn't like me before. You won't. I won't be able to notice any difference because it's all the same crap over and over again. But people love pretending that there's a real distinction to be made here. It's really sad. They couldn't stop talking about Yang not wearing a tie at the debates. And see, that's another example of the ridiculous hyper focus on men's attire that I'm really sick of. Um, a tie can be very uncomfortable depending on how tight it is around your neck. I've had firsthand experience with that. I think I mentioned that when I went to preschool all the way up until seventh grade, I had to. So I went to the same school from first to seventh. I had to wear a tie every day, and I hated it. So it's like I'm not going to shame him for. I really, like I said, Yang was a candidate I liked. It wouldn't matter to me if he came there with no tie or no like what do you call it, suit. Just like if he just came in regular stuff, I'd still support him because it doesn't matter. Like I that's why I said people get caught up on the most frivolous nonsense. Like this man's running for president, and you're having more discussions about him not wearing a tie than his actual positions. They think everything you do must be in the service of attracting women. Well, Akatsuki Merchant, you understand my point of how if they didn't like you when you wore regular men's stuff, then what incentive do you have to if you want to wear like women's stuff, for example, to be afraid that they won't like you if you wear their stuff because they already didn't like you when you wore, your own stuff from your gender. So like what difference did it make? Also, like the self-improvement complex, why would you want to only put on something to attract women and not for your own enjoyment or own desires? Yeah, like I mean, if you want to say, oh, if you wear a suit and tie every day, you'll look better, I guess, but I don't feel comfortable with that on every day. Or really even at all. Like it's just one of those things where people have really convinced themselves, thanks to the triangle scam, that everything you do if you're male has to be in service of attracting a group of people who don't like you anyway. True confession, I was a little bit impressed with his bare-throated look. Like I said, I'm in favor of people wearing whatever the hell they want to wear. I've never once in my entire life tried to confront somebody about their attire. I have had people try to confront me about mine. Um, but never the other way around because I don't care. I have a million other things I could be invested in. Man. And the sad part is that women actually, again, going back to like the disparity of it all. Um, you have and Megumi, I'm sure you've seen this. You have women who will, like, let's say they have long hair, they tie it up, and they just put on like a sweatsuit or something that like covers them up, right? And they're clearly doing this for comfort. They're not trying to attract men. Um, I'm not gonna say they're unattractive to wear that because whatever, but you get what I'm saying of how, like, on just a day-to-day basis, you can have women who don't explicitly go out trying to attract men. They just, they just wear something comfortable, right? And nobody would ever attack them for that or tell them there's something wrong with them for, you know, doing that. Because, people, again, when it comes to them, actually seem to want them to be comfortable. But if you're a guy, there's all these attacks and, you better put this on. And it's just really obnoxious, man. His bare throated look. I'm not even joking. If I was a candidate for office, I would just wear regular stuff. Like, maybe I'd have a suit for like a official picture in the event that I won. But as far as just going door to door and knocking on, I'm not about to sit here in no suit for that. It's ridiculous. Yeah, for a bunch of double standards and rules for one gender. Yeah. And aren't you tired of double standards? Like, look, we already accepted, okay, women are never going to just as a group or even in any large amount ask you out in the date, right? That's already something I just accepted. I have no problem just moving on from. But I'm not about to have people tell me what I can and can't wear. That's where you start, like, getting into the absurdity of this whole, like, event. Just the idea that people actually think they can tell you from a computer screen or even ones in like real life, like they can tell you what you can and can't put on. I don't support that at all. Again, for the simple fact that I don't go around telling other people what they can wear under any circumstance. Conform or else is the ideology. Yeah, but it's like, what is the or else? You'll write a nasty comment. You'll look at me strange. Like, they are insane. And like I said, there's a million other things you can condemn. You can condemn people who have kids they can't afford. You can condemn people that are violent, right? But they'd rather sit here and try to police what someone else has on for attire. And I just that goes to show you, like, the moral high ground is so ridiculous. As far as, like, this is the thing they choose to focus on, to be like, you will do this. Out of all the major stuff happening in this world, that's what they champion the cause of. I'm on the other side of the world. I'm gonna go to bed, but I enjoyed this discussion a lot. I'm gonna watch back tomorrow. Well, thanks for showing up. I appreciate it. And look, my biggest concern has always been, because I'll admit to an extent, I am someone who cares what others think. Like, I could easily say, "Oh man, I just wear whatever I want. If you don't like it, too bad." But I mean, I'll freely admit I'm not going to pretend I'll be shocked if people looked at me in some strange way or whatever. It's just that for me, a lot of times, I don't know. It's one of those things where I guess if I can make a comparison, it'd probably be like driving, where when I did it for the first time, I was like really scared, right? And then the more I did, I just became more comfortable with it. I think I'd probably be kind of like heart pounding to do it the first time, and then after that would just be like, whatever. I think you know what I'm talking about, where it's just one of those things where if you've never done something before and you know that it's like taboo in society, you're kind of reluctant. And then the more you do it, the more relaxed you become with it. I don't know, maybe I sound crazy. I understand what you mean, but well, you only live once after all. Oh, I know that. It's just all I'm saying is that's where you can get a reluctance with regard to this stuff. Like the chartering into the unknown type of position of like, hey, how will people react to this? Like I said, it's just really, and I every time I think about this, I always think back to the idea that if I were like female, for example, right? And let's say I wanted to wear men's stuff, there would be no worry or concern or fearfulness or hesitation or doubt because they wear men's stuff all the time and nobody says anything. But see, that's why I said I always am just constantly reminded of the blatant double standards and what's the way of putting it? Just that constant thing of like your inferiority is, and not because you think you're not as good as them or what, because like I said, there's a whole bunch of women stuff that's like made for all types of sizes. So it wouldn't be about like, anything having to do with do you feel uncomfortable, and it's quite the opposite, but rather your discomfort with openly having that stuff on is entirely tied to a societal belief of what a man can or can't wear, and a society that at the same time as it has these restrictions on men, um is like becoming more and more open to whatever women want to have on. So yeah, you do only live once, and I agree with that sentiment. It's just a matter of, you know do you feel comfortable having, like, I'm talking about just being here doing that, because like I think Akatsuki Merchant mentioned this before when he was talking about China and all their different styles. Going to another country and like having different, attire that's either made for male or female over there would be a lot less nerve wracking, because there a lot of those other countries don't have the same like obsession with, certain styles or whatever. Like I just wouldn't be as inclined to care as much or be as worried because they're not the same as, I mean, I would already be like an oddity in somewhere like Japan. So, it would just be like another day in the hood to it's kind of like they would already stare at you for being different from them. So it's something that wouldn't even matter at that point anyway. Conform or else. It's sad because in a lot of ways I have conformed. I mean, the act of going out and asking out women is something that men are told to do, or I guess boys are told to do from a young age, right? You have to, if you want something or someone, you have to show them you're interested. Um, but I don't know. It just seems like every year I it's like there's more layers to the double standard that I notice, and I'm just tired of conforming to it. Like I'm tired of even giving their ideas of what is correct etiquette for a man and what isn't any type of airspace. It just becomes a really nerve-wracking thing to have to sit here and like wonder, will someone say something? Will someone look at me this way? Because I don't know what my response to that would be. I probably just ignore it, but it's one of those things where I just I'm just always reminded of how I really do try to position myself as someone that doesn't care about like this type of stuff that much. Um, but I have my doubts. Didn't you say on your last stream about some chick you were speaking to on Discord and abruptly stopped responding to you? Oh yeah, there was a it was on, I think, Twitter, where spoke to this person almost, I think, for a month or two, like every day. How are you doing? Da, 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 da. And then abruptly she stopped responding. And these were just like regular discussions about like, hey, how are you? Whatever. Um, Abruptly she stopped responding, and then I went on her timeline and she was saying something about how she had been asked out by some guy, and she had said yes to him, and I was like, oh, that makes sense. I understand now why she stopped replying. I get it. I told you the funniest thing is you can say you're done like asking out chicks and they still have like this erotic subtext. Or am I still on? Wait, what do you mean, Jim? Am I still intoxicated or on crack or some other substance? See, look, you must have said something for her to make her uninterested. More like some guy in real life asked her out, and that's why she's like decided to cut off what was probably the only other or one of the other men that was talking to her. That was my theory, because it really was just like, "Hey, how are you?" and then like no response for like a month or whatever. But I was saying there's like an erotic subtext to a lot of those conversations with women on like those different like even like I swear I don't say any type of romantic thing and they'll be like, "Oh, thank you," and sending hearts and kisses and all the rest of that crap. And I'm just like, can you stop, please? Like I said, the nature of online correspondence with them for me is just that I really don't like when they do that. Yeah, for me, it's just whenever one of them talks to you, just don't be surprised if abruptly she stops replying or doesn't want to talk anymore. It's just, I mean, that's just how finicky this stuff is. And I don't like it either, but it's happened so much that I really can't be surprised when it occurs. I remember this one guy said that some of these, because I remember I mentioned that like with some of them I've spoken to women for like months on end. This guy said that the women are like anime villains where they're like the main antagonist of an arc, like a 7 or 8 month long season of like 20 episodes or whatever, and then after that they like vanish and disappear and are never heard from again, and then you move on to the next um villain that's gonna do the same thing of like wasting your time. I said that's a pretty good description. I mean, when I was thinking about it, I said, how many of them actually reappear? Like, how many did I just stop speaking to, or they stop speaking, whatever, and then like, a year later, here they are. What are they without the triangle? Nothing at all. Hey, Jem, would you say that we're such a fair society that it makes sense that women can wear whatever men wear, but if men wear what women wear, it's the end of the world, and people look at you and they get mad? And would you say that that makes us a fair society where one gender can wear whatever the other one wears, but then you'll yeah. I didn't have to finish it like asking the question. And oh, and Magumi wrote, and the moment they do that to guys who feel led on or get upset, but the chicks were sending all these messages with hearts signifying their interest in possibly liking you, they get so surprised. Man, I told you I really try to put that romance saga behind me, but there's a lot of stuff with them. We're looking forward to a day where I lose my libido. I don't like. Jem says I don't send hearts or kisses. Me neither. I don't even use emojis, other than maybe the laugh one. Well, that's why it's all the more upsetting. It's like, so I'm gonna send you these messages with all these hearts and other little love type stuff, but I only like you as a friend. I'm sure they well, they don't send them, they receive eggplants, I should say. If you know what I mean. They take those in really well. God, I'm telling you this. It's been one unfortunate saga, but Jem, I will tell you that I'm apparently going somewhere next Friday. I won't get back until I'm still gonna make videos like from where I am. It's not whatever. But I'll get back the Friday after this upcoming Friday, and then after that I'll try to like look more into some more of the congressional race stuff, with regard to calling the Secretary of State and asking them like all the questions and making sure we're doing stuff within parameter of the law, and just like finalizing my decision as far as like just making sure everything is correct. I use emojis correctly, uh, rather than just using them because I think I'm so quirky and snarky. I hope you enjoy wherever you intend on going. Well, look, if I actually go over there, it's supposed to be on like the Thursday night, hitting the Friday morning. I'll do a stream the day after at the hotel. So I'm not gonna like disappear or anything. It's just me saying that I was trying to go somewhere different because I figure while I'm unemployed and not tied down to a job that won't let me take a vacation without giving them a 5-month notice, I might as well, you know, finally travel somewhere that's not here. Get some variety. No, I've just okay, good. Keep on it. The people of Cali need. Hello, variety. Yep, we all need that from time to time for sure. Man, the idea of like having a room to myself and not having someone to bark orders at me, or it just feels so nice. Even if it's just for a week, that just sounds so appealing. Too much of the same stuff and sagas is mentally draining. Well, that's why I did that stream. That I was, tired of remakes, and I was like saying, "Hey, this is just like this other thing that happened before." Yeah, it's really repetitive. I'm not kidding when I tell you that, like, if I tried hard enough, I could find you could find a way of like taking all the different romantic encounters and like this one is like this one because this happened and this one is like this one. You know what I mean? Like when it started, it was really distinct. It was like I said, I must mention my video. First girl I ever asked out was someone I knew for 5 years that I was friends with. I asked for a number, she gave it to me like that. I thought, yeah, I'm in there, and then she said no. I was like, oh, whatever. Second one, already was dating some guy. So she already and I had just met, so it was like already very different from each other. But when you get to that 2015, 16 era, man, it became so homogenized. Like it was the same thing over and over. Here's some woman on Reddit when I want men to talk to me, then you write her a message, you talk to her for like a couple of weeks, a month, and then she vanishes. It just gets just you know too much of the same thing basically. I remember this one guy was editing on Wikipedia, and they said something to him about his edit, and he was like, "I came for an encyclopedia, not a freak show. This is a waste of my time." It just never he had his mic drop line and just departed. Gosh, I don't even want to remember back in those years of really trying to acquire a relationship. But yeah, it was awful. I mean, I mentioned before, one of the last straws was that I would go to this mall pretty much every if it wasn't every day, it was like every other day. And this is before I had a car, so I would just Uber over there, and I would sit up there, look and see do I like any of the women up here, might say something to one of them. And it was just the same thing over and over. I think I mentioned before that I went to one mall and I asked the woman for her number and she gave me her Facebook. And then I sent her a message on there and she was like, I am too busy looking for work and trying to go to school to talk to you. Like, then what was the point of giving me your account on like it was just weird, man. So yeah, I look at a lot of that stuff with a very bitter memory because jumping through all those hoops for a group of people that never showed any interest back, it just wasn't worth it to me. Time wasting at its finest. Oh, Jam, I hope that that the people of my district don't vote against me because I don't wear a suit and tie. Well, hell, they weren't going to vote for me anyway because they didn't even know who I am yet. I I hope women don't reject me if I wear something that they wear. Oh wait, they already rejected me when I wore men's stuff. Oh man, where's the difference? I don't see it, dude. It doesn't matter. It doesn't. Oh, especially for men. I'll tell you one of my favorite parts of any romance video I ever did was the women's many many options video, and I showed where yeah, young men especially because of social media, but I showed where I was like, I had this woman that asked me out, and I was shocked, and how it was easy for her to acquire my interest because no one else had ever shown interest in me, and it's like that's like an election where there's only one person running, and I showed the 2014 Alabama Senate race where Sessions won his like I think it was his fourth term, and he had like 90 something percent, like 97 or 96 or 98% of the vote. And it wasn't because he was this amazing, terrific, God tier candidate who was just transformative and everybody loved it. No, it was because the other side didn't even try. They didn't even put up anybody to run against him. So you either voted for him or you just cast a ballot for I don't know, your uncle or something. Like it was it's like, yeah, that's how he won by default. There were no other major candidates. Don't worry, I got your suit and tie covered. The only way you'll see me in one of those is if I win. That's the only time I would maybe wear one of those. But outside of that, like if, I'm talking about, if I'm going door to door, I'm not gonna put that on. And still this day, I have not seen a single person on this site that touched on one of the most important external factors is how majority of chicks online are talking to 20 plus guys. and they admitted it, and I showed proof. Just ridiculous, a one horse race. I mean, it's like, what race at that point? If this person is just going to win by default, what how are you even having a race? I want to get rid of all those BS politicians. We'll have to be cleaning off a whole lot because there's many of them. No for the debate. Oh, okay. I'm just saying that getting rid of these people has been made very difficult thanks to the corrupting influence of money in this stuff. Like, if like the factor of people got to look sharp for the cameras. But my thing is, I truly believe that a majority of voters do not care about the way that the person who represents them look. I really believe that. Like, I'm not saying that to be funny, but I think if you adhere to issues and talking about things that actually affect people's lives, and you go to them when other candidates won't, I don't think a shirt that says vote for me. Well, you know what I'm saying? I just don't think they're finicky enough to get caught up in something like that. Hmm. Well, minimum wage is one of the few things you can get most of the politicians over here to talk about. But if you start going to things like raising teachers' pay, um, and like restoring unions and addressing the homelessness crisis, where you have all these people like in tent cities, that you really will get people to show up. Stick to the basics. Hell no, they don't care. No, I knew what you were trying to say. But look, I'm gonna get off here because I have to go pick this person up. So 1 hour, but I'm gonna try to eat some before that. So look, I hope you guys enjoyed the stream. I'm really sorry about the ridiculous nonsense of Saturday. I can't promise it won't happen again because the internet out there is worse than it is in here. And people are usually always here on Saturday. So um, we'll see what happens. Although next Saturday I should be streaming from a hotel. Again, I don't know for sure. We'll see. So, but I'm definitely streaming next Saturday no matter what happens. So thanks for showing up and have a good rest of your Monday.